Without further ado, I'm going to turn the attention over to our two guests, Caroline and Carrie, to talk a little bit more about what they do, what they're a part of today, and then we will move on and talk about the questions we might have about invasive species. So I'll go ahead and stop my share. Hi, Caroline.
Yeah, all right. So I'm Caroline, and we got Carrie right here.
Hey, good afternoon.
Yes. So part of the reason why we're here, so SciStarter is actually supporting the webinar later today, Climate Cast Live. They made it possible. They gave me some funding to help support folks like Carrie for the webinar series. So if you go to bit.ly/ClimateCast Live, you can sign up for today's webinar, 4 p.m. Central Time, all about erosion. Carrie's going to be our expert speaker. Yay! And I'll be interviewing her and, manning the chat and all that good stuff. But I thought it would be cool to come out here because, separate from what I do with SciStarter, like Emma mentioned, I'm a PhD candidate at UF, and I get to work a lot with Extension. I'm wearing my Extension polo today. And I just think Extension is a really cool resource, especially I know that y'all have a bit of an invasive species flavor for today's SciStarter Live, but I thought it'd be cool if Carrie and I came out, talked a little bit about Extension, gave you a tour of this beautiful garden that we're standing in that has lots of native plants, talked a little bit about natives and non-natives for a few minutes, not too long. And then, we'll hop off and hand it back to Emma after that. But just wanted to hop on, say hello, talk a little bit about all the cool stuff. But I guess first and foremost, Carrie, what is Extension?
So Extension is a partnership between the University of Florida and all the local county governments. We are partially paid from each of them. Extension agents are considered faculty at the University of Florida, but we're also county employees. So we take research from the University of Florida and extend it out into the community. And my coworkers are experts in different fields. Mine is in coastal ecology, but I have people who are nutrition experts and agricultural experts and horticulture, and that's whose garden we're in. The Master Gardeners are part of Extension Volunteer Network, and they have created this incredible garden that we're in. But Extension it's in every county in Florida, and there's an extension program in every state in the country. So wherever you are, you can find an extension office, and we're great at answering questions about just about anything.
Yes, I know. Oh my gosh, they're such an amazing resource. I use Extension in my daily life just as a person who loves the nature of Florida, who wants to care for it. And Extension has info too about like Carrie mentioned, health and nutrition. Pretty much any research topic UF does, you can get help from Extension from. And like Carrie said, it's in every state. So that's one reason I wanted to highlight Extension today, because I know we have a lot of people tuning in from, I think we got some Floridians on the line, but people from around the country, and we got people from around the world. Extension can be a resource for you too, especially on the topic of invasive and non-native and native plants. Extension, I've used them as a resource in terms of identifying the native plants around me. So after this presentation, if you're like curious to know more, or you want help, or you really want to dig into this topic of invasive species in your state or your county, then Extension, if you just Google Extension, name of state, or for UF, you can go to the IFAS website. You'll be able to find all those resources. But okay, so invasive species, native species, what does it all mean?
So native species are plants and animals that have been here, have always lived here. And essentially we do it at the time of European colonization, or, just to give it a start time. So anything that was brought in by people or floated in on accident that took root that wasn't here at that point is considered invasive. Native plants and animals are adapted to the ecosystems in which they live. They can thrive on the rainfall and the soil and the food sources without needing additional inputs. Although invasives sometimes don't have natural controls, so they can come in and take over, and they upset the balance of the ecosystem that has kind of co-evolved over millennia.
Yeah. Wow. So I think that's a great way to say it. Basically, invasive species are the ones that are upsetting the balance of the ecosystem. And some of them can be quite beautiful, but it can be a problem if it's hurting the local species, right?
Yeah, and there's a difference in non-native and invasive.
Mm-hmm.
We have a lot of non-native species in this garden that are considered Florida friendly because they're not coming in and taking over. They can stay in their spot. We have these crepe myrtle trees that are not native, but they're not coming in and taking over anything either. So they're considered, a non-native but not invasive species. So there is some difference there. But for the most part, the native species, at least for vegetation, will provide fruit and nuts and flowers and habitat for the wildlife that are native to the area too. And so we really encourage those as much as we can.
That's awesome. And so if I'm trying to identify local invasives, natives, non-native species, how do you recommend doing that?
So you can certainly call your local extension office. Every day we get texts, calls, emails, Facebook messages. What is this thing? What's wrong with it? People walk it in, and can you help us identify it?
That's an interesting office visit.
Yes, we're really good at that. That's one of our daily things. It is actually National Invasive Species Awareness Week. So if you just Google NISAW, N-I-S-A-W. You'll find articles and information from all over the country. Our office is putting out daily articles on invasive species that are problematic in the area. So all that information is out there. Your universities are certainly going to have research on it. Your extension offices are a good place to start.
That's a great idea. I love it. Yes, use your local extension office, get their help. Extension offices also, we were talking earlier with one of the other agents about iNaturalist. You know, that's like different citizen science projects where you identify that these plants can be a resource for extension too. But like, if you're confused or nervous, or you're like, I don't know what this thing is, talk to your local extension office.
Yeah, we can ID it, no problem.
Amazing. No problem. Well, let's dig in then, and I'm gonna turn my camera around, and Carrie, point me in the direction of a native species in this garden.
So we've got some hollies up here, these larger trees. They're evergreen. They've got red berries. It's not going to be like tasty for humans, but birds are all about these berries. Hollies are a great species. They can be a natural screen. So if you need something evergreen to kind of prevent, buffer your property from somebody else. And they also are really sturdy, strong trees. They're very wind resistant. And so we really recommend those in hurricane prone areas because they can withstand hurricane force winds and not land on your house or your car.
That's such a good point. And I think that really shows why it's so important to foster native species and Florida friendly species because they're adapted to the environment. And I know one thing we've been talking a lot about with this ClimateCast Live series is you can use native plants to make the environment more resilient. Like Carrie just said, with hurricanes, you got some good trees that can withstand it. Amazing.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
Yeah, I think I like that one example. I know we don't have too much time today, but Carrie, is there anything else you haven't shared with us yet that you'd like to share with us about today's program, about invasive species, native species, anything like that?
Yeah, I mean, we encourage people to plant native species when they can. You always want to make sure it's the right plant in the right place. Look, when you buy or plant anything, make sure it's got the right space, you've got the right sunlight, soil for that specific species. Even if it's native, it may not be appropriate to the spot where you're looking to put it. So do some research to begin with. And then if you have an invasive species problem, especially if you have a lot of property, there's funding available to help remove those. But again, it can be a bit of a project. So think about that before you start. And don't bring anything in if you don't know what it is.
Yes.
It might take over.
Oh my gosh. Yes.
And this, the invasive species extend into animals as well. There are amphibians and fish and, all sorts of mammals that come in and take over sometimes. So be aware, don't bring in any pets. Don't let them free. That's where most of our invasive species, like the Burmese python.
We had a huge talk about that today.
And the Everglades started with people just releasing a pet. They're like, oh, I don't want to, hurt it. And then it takes over because it has no natural enemies. So it can become a big problem when people release pets that are not native to the area.
Yeah. All right. Well, I think that's the perfect note to end on, everybody. So knowledge is power. Don't plant something if you don't know what it is. Don't get a pet if you are planning to release it. Because the environment we have here, as you can see from this place I'm in Pensacola today, it's just beautiful. And wherever you are, I think fostering our native environment and our Florida friendly, our Arizona friendly, or wherever you're tuning in from environment, it's a worthwhile endeavor, part of our shared heritage. So let's take care of it today. And citizen science is a great way to learn more about it. So Emma, unless you have anything else for us, I think Carrie and I are going to jump off. And if anybody liked hearing from Carrie during today's event, you can get more at 4 p.m. Central by going to bit.ly/ClimateCast Live and joining us for our erosion program. But yeah, Emma, Roland, anything else before we go?
I did have a question. At the very start, we talked about invasive versus non-native. I was curious if any of our species in existence, is it possible for them to change into becoming native like our timeline of starting it at European colonization, have there been any species that have just adapted into becoming native, or is that usually just labeled as non-native?
Mm.
So I don't know if you would call it as, if you would reclassify it as native, because that's kind of that definition is, was it here before or not? But you've certainly got species that have acclimated to the point that they are, you know, functioning like a native species. They've found a niche and they're not causing additional problems. So I wouldn't say that it can become a native, but it can certainly get acclimated and become something that is not problematic.
Yeah, I think the designation, like for Florida, for example, of Florida friendly, that really helps.
Florida friendly landscaping certainly kind of, you know, these plants can work in a Florida yard successfully.
100%. Yeah, it's not taken over. Like I think that's what Carrie gave is like a perfect threshold.
Yeah.
Cool.
Excellent.
Emma, any other questions for us?
Yes, one more, and then I'll let y'all go. Thank you so much for staying on for this long. The last question I had was about, for anyone who's going to like plant nurseries and such, I'm curious if the extension offices often have partnerships with nurseries and private institutions that sell plants to make sure that there are only the native and non-native, or what the goal is there, or what the existing partnership is, if there is any.
So we do work with different, you know, nurseries. We can't necessarily, you know, endorse one over the other, right? Because we're a publicly funded entity, but we certainly are familiar with those who sell more native species. And most every extension office, if you ask where can I find native plants, they can give you a list of local nurseries that do carry those. And so that's, you know, we have a lack of native nurseries in the area. So we have been working with some of the local nurseries to start carrying more of those species, because as we encourage them, we want people to be able to purchase them too. And so that's kind of what we do. We'll give you some recommendations. Almost anybody.
That's awesome. I love it.
Perfect. Thank you so much for all the information. This is like exactly what I was hoping to hear about. So I'm glad to have all this advice ready for everyone. I wrote down some things so that I can show it on the screen too when as you exit. Thanks so much, Caroline. Wish you luck on the next event, and I'll be hopping on to watch it live too. So I'll see you later.
Yay, see you on Zoom. Bye, Emma. Bye, Roland.
Thanks, Caroline. Excellent.
Thank you.
All right, for those of you who are listening, I'm going to go ahead and switch my view so you can see my my very beautiful slide, which is simply what was just shared. So just so you can recap everything with me, non-native species are not all invasive. They just are kind of there. I asked a question at the end about if they can ever become native, and they're essentially Florida friendly, insert state here friendly, this terrain friendly, etc. So being aware that not all non-native species are invasive is probably a good thing to keep in mind, just in case you're worried about what you're planting, because you might be okay even though it's not technically native. So the two pieces of advice for where to go were the calling your local extension office. So if you have one that you're already aware of, awesome. If you're like me and hadn't even heard about the extension offices, you can Google them and find them out later. For me in Arizona, the closest one would have been for U of A, the University of Arizona, which is my enemy as a ASU student or previous student anyway, alumni. So that said, I could call them, but now that I live elsewhere, I'll look for the one that's closest to me here in Washington, D.C. There is a National Invasive Species Awareness Week, and you can go and Google NISA to find out more about them, and they've got lots of things happening this week especially, so go and find out what you might want to take part in or look into. You can also make sure to take care in planning out your choices of plants and where you choose to put them into your environment, so making sure that they're properly cared for with the amount of sunlight and water, etc. Is a good part of that. And then lastly, invasive animals exist too. So make sure you keep your pets if you buy a pet, or make sure that you have an action plan that does not involve them being returned into the wild and not returned to the right wild. So be careful of those things and be aware that that often happens, and then it causes an invasive situation that we don't want to have happen. So those are the pieces of advice I grabbed from that. If you learned other things, then that's excellent. Hopefully you can share them with your community and friends and family, etc., and you'll get more out of it. Now, in terms of acting on the existing environment and reporting on invasive species and noting what type of species you have in your environment. There are projects on SciStarter to help you get started doing that and make sure that you can properly understand the different types. And so one of the options is as you're logged into SciStarter and you have your location services on, our project finder actually defaults to things that are near you. And so if you are on the finder, I'll go ahead and actually demonstrate this for you, which that was an extension website. So I'm on the finder right now. I'm actually going to enter my location as where I am because near me is actually, I don't have my location turned on, I don't think, so I'll fix it for us. I'll make sure that it's definitely fixed. So Washington, D.C., what's near me? So the first two things that come up is the Cricket Crawl, D.C. and Baltimore, and then Virginia Working Landscapes, which I saw earlier today as right there. So I saw these earlier today and just noted immediately, they're all about biodiversity of the things in those specific areas. And so if you're just looking for things near you, a lot of invasive, native, non-native, et cetera, are related to your exact location. And so seeing the projects that are close to you geographically is an important part of being knowledgeable about invasive species, especially because it's specific to where you are. So if you're looking for how to start tracking the native plants and animals around you, this is a good starting place, just simply because they will have the most exact and most helpful and most impactful things simply because of your location. Now, you can also keyword search for invasive or native, and you'll get a ton of different answers. In fact, a lot of them will come up as being iNaturalist projects, for example. Some of them are independent projects that just need your help. I think most of these are actually on iNaturalist. So native plants and invasive plants of Euromodala. That one is a iNaturalist project, as is the Citizen Scientists Saving the Saguaro. So a saguaro is a native plant of Arizona, and when I lived there, I saw them all the time, but sometimes they're unhealthy, and so that one in particular is about saving the saguaro as a species and noting any of the saguaros that you see as diseased. So they want pictures of illness or infected saguaros to see if they can fix and solve the issues of ailing saguaros. Another version of this is projects that are very much promoting the idea of helping you plant your own version of a native plant garden. In this case, rewilding is a big deal with this organization. So looking into projects like that is also helpful. So that was specifically for a keyword search. So if you're looking just in general for invasive or native related projects, that's the type of answer you'll get from that. Okay. And then lastly, we mentioned iNaturalist a couple times. Caroline mentioned it earlier, and I'm going to mention it again and actually give you instructions for it, because iNaturalist is generally a really, really good spot to note all your observations of plants and animals, all kinds of life, and then have it tied into a location, and you can write notes about it, being like, I think this is invasive, or I know this isn't native here, but I think it survives well in this environment and doesn't impact the ecosystem. You can write notes on it in general and find out exactly what you're looking at by using that bigger community to help identify and confirm your identification. So that said, iNaturalist is also a great resource simply because it's an affiliate, and many of these projects are affiliates. And so the second you connect your SciStarter account to iNaturalist, you can actually just see how many contributions you do over time. So I can look at all of my contributions to iNaturalist across 2023, not 2013, 2023, and see how well I did last year and improve on it this year, especially as we get closer to the City Nature Challenge, anyone, end of April. So very useful tool. Now, because we had a spotlight for iNaturalist and it being an affiliate, I did want to mention that this is incredibly important, especially since we are heading into April very soon. We're about a month away. And April is the biggest month of the year for us at SciStarter. It is Citizen Science Month. This year, we're aiming for 1 million acts of science, which is a lot of acts of science. That involves all of you who are signing up for accounts on SciStarter, involves all of you who are doing observations on iNaturalist, going to Zooniverse and categorizing images, analyzing things, finding comets in the sky with sun grazer, all of the above. All of these are considered acts of science, and we want to make sure that we are calculating all of them to see if we can get over 1 million, which I know we will. We definitely will, because all of you are so dedicated to the missions of all these different projects. So if you're interested, being a part of an affiliate project like iNaturalist, it'll actually count for you, which is great. So you don't have to worry about it. But if you do any projects during the month of April, you can report them to us and how many acts you did, how many videos you categorize, how many images you looked at through Zooniverse, etc. And tell us just how many you did so that we can add up to that 1 million, which will be a really exciting moment at the end of the month where we'll be back on SciStarter Live to talk about the results. So big deal, very excited, and we want you to be a part of it to the point where we want to show you off on the website. So if you are active on social media, you can absolutely use our hashtags and handles. And if it's on Instagram, we're actually going to post an Instagram post that have 1 million acts of science as a hashtag on it on the website. So you'll actually just be promoted and you'll show up as a strong supporter of this process. So you can find us on any of these social medias, including a newly created TikTok too. So you can find us anywhere there. And the benefit of Instagram too is that we have these really cool things like a sticker. So if stickers interest you, I think they're super cool, and you can put them on your Instagram post, which is pretty cool. And here's how you do it. Go to Instagram, create a story or a reel, select stickers, type SciStarter to find one of these 3 stickers, and it's just there for you. And this is a video of it actually happening, if you weren't sure. So that is all to say, 1 million acts of science, April, it's a big deal. We want everyone involved. And now knowing all the knowledge you do about native and non-native species and invasive species, all of these count as observations that will impact April's count of 1 million. So if you decide to go out in the spring during April, it will really benefit all of us involved. So we're excited to see you join for that. And lastly, here's how the sticker process works. It's pretty cool. Pretty cool, if I do say so myself. All right, this has been a short episode because it was very specific to that topic, and we wanted to catch you all during the invasive species, National Invasive Species Awareness Week. So now moving forward for our next events on March 5th, I just talked a lot about 1 million acts. I'm going to do it again, but with more specificity and a better route for a lot of different types of people. So if you're a facilitator of anything, of events and such, or work at a library, or you're a teacher, whatnot, we want to help you get involved. So you can join us again next week to talk about that. On March 12th, we'll be talking about Wild Hope and their tools for educators. So if you join us for that one, you'll have a good time learning about how to bring Wild Hope to life in your classroom and to your students and your peers and your children and whoever else you want to teach. So, and Wild Hope is a series of it's a mini series, so you can actually watch these videos and episodes, and they're really cool. And we have a bunch of citizen science projects that relate to each one. It's a great time. And then on March 19th, since it is March, it is Women's History Month, we are going to have a celebration with the Maria Mitchell Association. For anyone who does not know, Mariah Mitchell was the first female astronomer and the first professor of astronomy at Vassar. And she discovered a comet back in 1847, I want to say, found one in the night sky, and it propelled her into awesomeness of what I just mentioned. And so we're going to celebrate her start as being an amateur astronomer and being really, really interested in science, and then it building into her career and just what leadership she's given the female community. So if you are interested in joining us for that, I'm very excited for that one. And we'll talk about all the things that women are awesome at within citizen science and science. So looking forward to talking to you all then. And lastly, we have a bunch of different resources for you that we always mention. If you ever need anything, you can always email us at the info@scistarter.org email, which you can also find on the website. We have a podcast. We've got those trainings I mentioned. We have videos on YouTube. We've got a community that's willing to answer your questions and all the project leaders who can answer your questions, and the big database of projects for you. So anytime you're looking for a new thing to start on, we should be your first stop. And I'm excited for you to find the ones that you enjoy. So with that all said, I think we're ending exactly on the 30-minute mark. Big success. High five to myself. We're so happy to be here. We'll be with you again next week. So let us enjoy the topic of 1 million acts of science, and we will see you next week.